Yeah, it's the course is related to Git and GitHub. So myself, Hari Cherku, I'm a DevOps consultant and solution architect with 12 plus years of industry experience. I'm a real-time employee, and my passion is something like a train the people. And I have done few more certifications. So few of them are I'm a ITL certified engineer. I'm a Red Hat certified system administrator, and I'm a Red Hat certified Linux engineer, and I'm a AWS certified solution architect associative, and I'm a certified Kubernetes administrator, guys. Okay. Yeah. So what is the agenda? Introduction to Git and GitHub. So agenda is introduction to Git and GitHub, usage of GitHub user interface and the command line usage of Git, how we can execute the commands in the Git through the command line towards to advanced usage. We'll show you guys. So what are the prerequisites? The prerequisites is none. So, but pay attention, guys. Who are something like a developer, backend users, or something like a QA team or operational team or a DevOps team. So nowadays in the industry, everyone is using Git, Git and GitHub to store their data, right? So no prerequisites, guys. Everyone can learn this one, but pay attention. So while learning this course, so goals and objectives. Attend the at the end of this class, you should know how to get started with the GitHub. Be able to work with the Git repositories. So find the information and support to learn more, guys. So what are the modules we will cover? We will cover module 1, introduction to version control system. So what is version control system? Types of version control systems. It is a centralized version control system, distributed version control system, benefits of version control system, introduction to Git, history of a Git and GitHub, GitLab and Bitbucket. Okay, so module 2 will discuss about the Git installation and configuration. So how we can install the Git on Windows, Linux, Mac, basic Git configuration and Git GUI tools versus command line tools. So we'll discuss in the Git GUI tools like a VS Code and that Eclipse, guys. For the developers purpose, the developers mostly using the VS Code, right? And the VS Code and Eclipse. So we'll show you the how we can integrate with that GUI tools in the Git, guys. Okay. So third module, Git basics, creating a Git repository, how you can create the Git repository, clone a Git repository, Git directory structure, checking status and adding files, committing changes, viewing history, how we can view the history. And in module 4, we'll discuss about working with branches. What is a branch? So why we need a branch, right? We'll show you. Understanding the branches, creating a branch, switching branches, merging branches, conflict resolution, deleting branches, and cherry picking. Module 5 will discuss about the Git workflow and the collaboration. So remote repositories, Git remote -v, pushing changes, pulling changes, fetching changes, forking and pull request. Okay, upstream repositories. Module 6 will discussing about the undoing and the resetting. Git checkout versus Git restore. How you can check out and how you can restore, guys. And git reset, soft mixed hard reset, and git revert, save undo and stashing the changes. Okay, git clean. So module 7 will discuss about the tags and releases, what is how to create the tag, annotated tags, white lightweight tags, so listing and delisting, deleting the tags, pushing the tags. Module 6, Git advanced topic, something like a Git rebase, cherry pick, Git hooks, Git ignore, and Git attributes will discuss. And Git GitHub, creating repositories on GitHub, SSH configuration, collaborator access, issues, projects, and actions. So, on the real-time scenarios, so best practices will show you Git workflow strategies, Git flow, GitHub flow, team collaboration practices, Git in DevOps pipeline, Git alias, productivity tips, security in Git. So, we'll discuss these 10 modules, guys. We'll discuss about these 10 modules in the this Git and GitHub course, guys. Guys, understood?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, right. And what we will provide? So what we will provide in this course? Yeah. So this is, guys, something like a Git and GitHub, and we'll show you a little bit about GitLab and Bitbucket also, guys. So the action should be same. All if you learn anyone GitHub or something like a GitLab, GitHub, GitLab, or Bitbucket. The operation should be same. So, but the UI should be different only. Okay. So, what are the prerequisites, guys? I already told you, right? What are the prerequisites?
Nothing. Pay attention.
Yeah. Yes. Prerequisites is none. And the duration is 5 days, guys. I'm having 12 plus years of experience, guys. So, what we will provide in this class? Soft material, soft copy, material soft copy, and class notes, and recorded videos. Will share via Google Drive, guys. So, I understood, right? So, what exactly GitHub? Does anyone knows what is a GitHub? So now you understood. So this is the GitHub. So we are creating a repository and we are working on this GitHub repository. So what is a Git? So I'm just showing what is Git and GitHub. Okay, I will tell you the brief introduction about what is a Git and GitHub. Okay, yeah. So this is the ls cd ds git file git log. Yeah, he's right. So this is nothing but a Git GUI. What this is? So this is a Git GUI, something like a head main. So something like a, what is this main? Git log, commit, author, date. What this is? So this is nothing but a Git CLI, and so what this is? This is a Git GitHub. What this is? This is a GitHub.com. So this is the GitHub. So we are creating the repositories and pushing your changes from local to. So I will tell you guys these two. Okay. So for example, developers guys. So developers are working from. So for example, these four developers are working from. So first, what is a version control system, right? So what is version control system? I will tell you. You will get the clarity about what is version control system, what is Git, so what is Git Bitbucket, something like, right, guys? So these are the people. What? 1 second, guys. So for example, these are the developers, guys. So what these are? Understood, right? So these are the developers. What these are? These all are the developers. This guy is working from Hyderabad. This guy is working from UK. Okay. This guy is working from USA. This guy is working from Pune, for example. Okay. These four are the developers. So they want to they want to develop the code, right? So what they will do, something like the first point is, so this guy is developer the code, this guy is developer the code, and this guy is developer the code, this guy is developer the code. So how to integrate all the developers code at one place? This is what this is. How to integrate all the developers code at one place. All the developers code at one place. And the second question is how to track code changes, how to track the code changes in the project, in the project. So something like a who modified who modified so something like a when modified what modified and why modified these guys so the first problem is how to integrate the all the developer code at one place. For example, this guy is wrote some code, this guy also wrote some code, and this guy also wrote some code, this guy also wrote some code. So how to integrate all these developers code at one place? So this is the one dollar mark question. How we can integrate, guys? So what you can do, something like we need a one space, we need a one storage space to push that code, all the developers code push at one place. What that is so that is a what that is, guys? That is nothing but a GitHub. So that is nothing but a GitHub. That GitHub is nothing but a centralized repository. So where we can store the code, where we can store all the code in the GitHub repository, in the GitHub repository. Guys, understood? So how we can push that code from the how we can push the code from here to here? So by using Git client. What is that, guys? So by using a Git GUI client, Git CLI, Git client. So this is also Git client. So this is also Git client. Sorry, Git client. So this is also a Git client. So what this is, guys, what is a GitHub repository? So this is the GitHub repository. In this GitHub repository, they are pushing their code from their laptop to central repository, to the remote repository. What this is? This is a remote repository. Remote repository. So what is the repository name? For example, in the GitHub repository, you are working for the Citibank. For example, Citibank is the repository. What is that? Citibank is the repository. In the Citibank repository, so whatever the developers developing that code, right? They can push it to the they can push it from the local to remote. So local to remote. So what is the local client, guys? What is the local Git client? How they can push from local Git to remote Git? So this is the local Git. So from here to whatever the developer develop that code, right? So from here to they will push that code from the remote repository. Where they can push it? They can push it to the remote repository. The remote repository should be either GitHub, GitLab, or a Bitbucket. So what is that, guys? So all are a Git repository tool. So what this is the GitLab and Bitbucket. What is that, guys? Bitbucket. Understood? So we can push the code from your local to either Bitbucket or a GitLab or a GitHub or a GitHub. Yes, understood? Guys, now you understood? Yeah. So what is a version control system? So now you understood a layman language. So what is a Git? How we can push their code from a local repository to a remote repository. So right. So why we need this? How to track code changes in the project tree? Who can? So why we need a Git, guys? Git will Git will track the changes. Tracking means who modified the code, when modified the code, what modified, why modified, because of the tracking purpose. Git provides a tracking mechanism. So why we are using Git? Git is a tracking mechanism. Okay. So now you understood, guys. So what is a version control system or a source code management tool? So what is that? Git is a version control system or a source code management tool. So what is version control system or a source code management tool? So what is source code management tool or a version control system? Version control system. What is that, guys? Multiple developers will work for a project, right? So multiple developer will work project project development. This is the multiple developer. So this multiple developer will work for the project. So which project? Citibank project. Okay. Developers developers will be working from multiple locations. So where they are working from? In our cases, they are working from UK, USA, Pune, and Hyderabad. Okay. So the all developers will work from multiple locations. And all developers code should be stored at one place. All developers code should be stored at one place. All developers code should be stored at one place. So all developers code should be place it, store at one place. So now you understood all developers code should be stored at one place. Here we are storing all the developers codes, all the developers code. Yes, understood? And to integrate, what is that? To integrate all the developers source code at one place. Okay. So use source code. We will use source code repository, softwares, use source code repository softwares like GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, Bitbucket, and from AWS Cloud, AWS repo, Azure repo, and etc. So now you understood, guys? To integrate all the developers code at one place, so we will use the source code repository software like GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, AWS repo, all these. Yes, now you understood? Or we can store the data either GitHub, GitLab, or Bitbucket. So Bitbucket. Guys, now you understood? So what is version control system and source code management tool? So version control should be two types. So one is a centralized version control system and distributed version control system. So what is centralized version control system? What is a distributed version control system? I will tell you. Yeah. So there are two types of version control systems. One is a centralized version control system. The other one is distributed version control system. Understood, guys? So centralized version control system and distributed version control system. In the centralized version control system, there is only one server. There is only one server, one remote server. So and the working copy. So in your local, you should commit the code from your local to server, local to server, local to server. Right? So if something goes wrong on the server, the code will be lost. The code will be losing. So that's the reason a distributed version control system came. So in this distributed version control system, so we have a local repository and remote repository. What is that? You have a local repository and remote repository. Same like as here you see. So main, this is a Durgasoft Git 5 main. This is the local repository, and yeah, this is DS Git 5. So this is the remote repository. So you have a local repository, you have a remote repository, as well as local repository. Your code should be in two places. If something goes wrong on the local repository, so we have a code in the remote repository. If something goes wrong on the local repository, so we have a code on the remote repository. So this is the this is the advantage of the distributed version control system. Yes, we understood? This is the advantage of the distributed version control system. You understood? Yeah, I will show you. Yeah, you see. So this is a local repository and this is the remote repository. So remote repository should be the GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, Azure Repo, AWS Repo. These are the remote repositories. This is the local repository. Your code should be in the local repository as well as remote repository. Yes, understood? So now you understood the what is source code management tool or version control system. There are two types of version control system. There are two types of control system. There are two types of version control system. One is centralized version control system. Other one is a distributed version control system. So understood, guys. So what is a Git? So now you understood the version control system, how we can track, why version control system for tracking and everything, right? Now, what is a Git? So what is a Git, guys? Git is a version control software. What is that? Git is the version control software. Now you understood what is a version control system. Git is a version control software. It will be versioning that, right? And it's a distributed control version control system. It is a distributed version control system. What is that? Not centralized. Now you understood, right? What is that? Git is a distributed version control system. What is that? So the version control systems are two types. One is CVCS, centralized version control system, and second one is DVCS, distributed version control system. So what is the example of CVCS, SVN? Subversion is the centralized version control system, and distributed version control system is Git. Why Git is popular? Because of there is a local repository and remote repository. So right, this is the advantage. That is the Git is popular. Now you understood? Git is a version control system and it's a distributed version control system. It's a distributed version control system. So why we use the Git, guys? It is it is used to and manage track and manage changes to manage changes to files locally. It will mean manage the, so it is used to track and manage changes to files locally. What is that? So here we can install the Git and it is used to track. So guys, how you can track Git log? So what is the commit ID? So when we commit the code, right? So what is the commit ID? Who is the author? Haris is committed. when it will committed, what is the commit message, right? Track the changes and manage the changes files locally. The changes files locally manages is nothing but a Git. So Git is a version control system or a software. It is a distributed control system. It is used to track and manage changes to a files locally. And why it is popular? Because of it is a open source. Why? Git is a open. Git is a open source. Guys, now you understood? So now you understood the what is version control system. Now you understood the what is Git. So Git is used locally. So locally the developer develop that code, right? So once we develop that code, right, we need to push it to the local repository. How we can push the local repository? We can push the local repository through through Git. Understood, guys? So if we use the Git, we can push the code. We can say we can add or we can commit the code locally to the local repository from your laptop to working directly to local repository. So for this purpose, the entire workflow. So working directory, staging area, local repository, Git add, Git commit, Git checkout, Git match. All these actions will be done through the Git local Git. All these done through the Git. Guys, understood? So this is nothing but all these activities done by the local Git and the remote repository. We can use the from local repository, remote repository. So we can use the Git push and Git pull commands. Guys, now you understood? So what is a Git? Now you understood the Git. Next, what is a GitHub? What is a GitHub? So what is a Git? Git is a version control system for tracking the changes into computer files. It is generally used for source code management in software development. In software development. So developers, so whatever the developers develop that code, right? That push it to the Git. That push it to the Git. Understood? What is GitHub? What is GitHub? So in generally, I already showed what is a GitHub. GitHub. So what is GitHub? Is understood? Guys, now you understood what is Git? So what is GitHub? GitHub I already showed, right? So what is a GitHub? GitHub is the remote repository to store the developer's code, to store the code and who modified, when modified, what modified, why modified. So we'll track all these changes in the Git remote repository. GitHub is a platform. What is that, guys? GitHub is a GitHub is a platform which is used to store project related files or source code at one place. Right, GitHub is a platform which is used to store project-related files or source code at one place. Right, in GitHub, what is that? In GitHub, so we can create source code repository to store project code. We can create a source code repository to store project code. Here, I created a repository for to store the So I created a repository, AWS DevOps material. So this is the repository. This is the repository. This repository is to store the AWS material. AWS material, AWS DevOps material. Same like as a Citibank. This is the Citibank or something like this is the code, right? For example, this is the DS Git file. So this is for to storing the developed code. Okay. We can create the source code repository. We can create a source code repository to store the project code. So what is that? All developers can connect to the project repository to store the source code. So here, all the developers can connect to the GitHub repository and to store the code. All developers can connect to the project repository to store project code. Okay. So the code integration will be very easy, right? The code integration will be very easy. Next one, GitHub repository. GitHub repository will monitor all the code changes. How they can monitor? One second, guys. Yeah. How they can monitor the same like as who modified, when modified, right? So this one. So this one, who modified, when modified, what modified, why modified. So it repository will monitor the all code changes. Why modify, right? So now you understood GitHub. Very good. Yeah. So Linus Torvald, who is Linus Torvald developed the Git and he released as a open source. He released as a open source. Do you know, guys, who is Linus Torvald? Yeah, this guy developed the Linux and this guy developed the Git also. Yeah. So what is a open source, guys? You already know, guys. What is a open source?
It's a free software.
Yes, very good. So open source is nothing but we have 2 points here. One is correct, free of cost. The other one is source code also available. What is that? What is source code, guys? The software developed through the programs, right? Either they are using C language or C++. That code is nothing but a source code. So took that source code and created their own type of GUI tools. So took that source code and created their own type of GUI tools like GitHub. I guess. GitLab, Bitbucket. Okay. So they took the source code and they created their own GUI tools, guys. They created their own GUI tools. Okay. Yeah. So what are that? He developed the Git CLI. So how it will work, guys? Git CLI. I already showed you, right, guys? How it will work? It will work through the commands. So what are those? Git add, git commit, git checkout, git merge, git push, git pull. Understood? So git CLI. So we can use the git commands. Git CLI uses git commands. So what are those? Git add, git commit, git status, git log, git push, git pull, and git clone. So we have a git clone and etc. Okay. So what are the Git GUI tools, guys? GUI tools. What are the GUI tools? I already told you, right? Git, GitHub, Bitbucket, GitLab, Azure Repo, and etc. Is understood? So this is the Git CLI and Git GUI. Git CLI and Git GUI. Yes, understood? So now you understood the Git CLI and Git GUI. So what is a Git client? Here, right? How they can push the code from their local to the remote repository through the Git client, through the Git client, through the Git client. So what is the Git client? What is a Git client, guys? Git client also known as a Git or a Git bash. Git client is also known as Git or Git bash. What is it? Git or Git bash is used in developer mission that connects with remote repositories. Remote repositories like GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, etc. Right? So what is Git bash? Git and Git bash. This is the when we install the Git client, Git, right? Git on our local machine. So it will download the Git bash. Bash is nothing but a born again shell. So what is that? Git bash. Git download for Windows or Mac or whatever. So what is the? So this is the source. This is the website to download the Git for Mac or Windows or a Linux, right? So we can download for the Windows and you can install directly. I will show you the setup. No worries. Okay.
So, Git bash is something where you write all your Git CLI Git
Yeah.
commands, right?
Yes. Yeah. So Git Bash is
Okay.
why Git Bash? So Git developed as a CLI, right? So how we can interact
When
with the how we can
sorry,
interact with the local repositories? Yeah. 1 second. How we can interact with the local repositories? So we can interact with the local repositories Git CLI only. So Bash
here
shell.
CLI, what does CLI mean?
CLI is nothing but a command line interface. What is that?
Command line interface, which is
Yeah.
nothing but again Git bash only.
Sorry, your voice is breaking.
So command line interface Git CLI is nothing but Git bash.
Yes. Git CLI is nothing but a Git bash. So if you install the Git, right, it will automatically connect how we can operate in the local repository, right? So through the bash only. What that bash? That bash is nothing but a Git bash. Git bash is the shell. Shell is the interpreter. Shell is the mediator or interpreter between your local repository to your working directory. Okay. So next, what is a branch? What is a branch? What is a repository? Now you understood the what is a repository, right? Now you understood, for example, so this is the repository. What this is? Git DS Git 5 is the repository.
One question here.
Yeah.
You said it's a distributed system. and you have
Yes.
something called as central repository, and then you have the local repository. Can we, as a user, I can see the local repository?
Yeah, you can see. So you can see the local repository. Oh, no, no, no. You cannot see the local repository. So local repository is your own repository. Whenever the so if you are pushing from your local to remote, yeah, you can see the local repository. So if you are pushing from your local repository to remote repository, yeah, you can see the local repository.
So,
So if you are pushing from,
sorry, I have my
yes,
code here in my system, and
in your
now
system.
when I push it, so first it will
Yes,
go and sit on local repository, correct?
yes, 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 yes.
So, can I see the local repository?
Yeah, you can see it. You can see it. This is the local repository. You see, for example, here you wrote the code, okay, in your working directory. Then how we
Hmm.
can push your code from your local repository to from your working directory to local repository through the git commands, git CLI commands, or git GUI, either window VS Code or Eclipse. So if you use the git bash, right? For the git bash, you can use git add git commit. Whatever the code you wrote, right? It will see the local repository. Local repository knows, oh, something is moved from your working directory to local repository. Now your Git is no the local repository. That code is in the local repository. Then you can push the code from your local repository to remote repository. If you see, so this is your working copy. Whenever you work, you wrote the code, right? You can push it to your local repository. You can see your local repository because of you wrote the code and you push it to your local repository. From the local repository, you can push it to the remote repository. So on this way, how you can push from your working directory
So,
to local repository by using
so
git
you're
add and git
telling,
commit.
okay, when you open the GitHub, that repository, that is your server repository, right?
Yes, this is your server repository. What this is? This is your server repository. What this is? So this is nothing but a, yeah, this is the GitHub, Bitbucket, GitLab.
Huh. So where I can see this my local repository, that is what my question is.
Yeah. You see, so for example, DS Git 5 is the your local repository. You see here main, there is a branch. Okay. So your repository with branch, that is nothing but a local repository. Okay. You can see, for example, cd dot dot. Good question. For example, cd mm, DevOps 54 cd hurry mkdir batch 6 cd batch 6. You see, just this is a folder. This is a folder batch 6. But you see, this is Hurry or DevOps or something like DS Git 5. These all with the branch name. How you can see what is your local repository? Your local repository with branch. This is nothing but a local repository. So this is nothing but a just a folder or a directory.
So you mean to say local repository is nothing but a folder or a directory in your Git only?
In our Git only. So when you start
Okay.
working, right, then you will understand, oh, this is local repository. So that is remote repository. Local repository means that repository is your own repository and someone cannot edit, someone cannot add files. Okay. A remote repository is a repository. Someone can push the code, someone can modify the code. Here, this is your local repository. Your local repository will modify, add something you can do. You only can do in the you can do any modifications in our local repository. But the remote repository, everyone can modify or everyone can add the files. So directly, why local repository? So we cannot directly push the code to directly remote repository, because of if we use the centralized repository, right? There is no local repository, right? There is no local repository. Then so we don't know who modified the code, when modified, what modified, why modified, right? So something like you directly push it to this code. Something like someone deleted. We don't know who modified the code, who deleted the code. So for the tracking purpose, we can use the Git. Okay. So whenever we create a repository. Whenever we create a repository in the local or a remote, a default branch will be created. So what is that default branch? The default branch is main branch. So why we need a branching? So why we need a branch? So for example, in your environment, how many environments you have? You have a development environment, you have a QA environment, you have a production environment, or else something like some companies are using staging environment, UAT, pre-prod, right? Or something like a staging environments or integration environments. So all these environments having a separate code. So for that purpose, they are created a repository. With that repository, they have a branches. So to maintain a separate code base for our application like development branch, production, UAT, stage, hotfix, testing, etc. guys. To maintain a separated code base for our application like development branch, production branch, UAT, stage, hotfix, testing, etc. guys. Is understood? So whenever you create a repository in the default branch, which create that branch name is main branch or a master branch. Yes, understood? For example, you are trying to create a new repository. Okay. So whenever you create the repository, for example, city branch. What is the branch or what is the repository you are creating? So we're creating a repository called as a Citibank. Okay. So once you create the Citibank repository, so it will be created as it will be created as a branch. What is the branch? The branch is Citibank, and a default the repository is Citibank, and a default branch will be created. That branch is main branch. That branch is main branch. Understood? So for example, I will show you that. Show file. Yeah, we need to push that code. Yeah, so we need to download from your remote repository local. Then you can push the code. Then it will see the repository. Then you will see the repository. Otherwise, you can see here. So this is DS Git 5. What is it? So how many repository you have? So you have a 4 repositories. Those repositories are DS Git 5, DS Test 5, and the Citibank and AWS Material. Okay, for example, DS Test 5, you see, so this is the main branch. So whenever you create a branch, so why it is not showing here? Because of this this repository with a empty repository. This is a empty repository. That's the reason we are not seeing the branches. So when you have a code, right? When you have a code, it will see it in the repositories. We'll see it in the repositories. Okay, guys. So because of there is no files, right? There is no code in the this local repository, this remote repository. That's why I'm not seeing. But you see, right? Whenever you create a repository, a default repository will be created. That repository is the main repository because of, so for example, So Citibank is your repository. What is that? Citibank is your repository. So in this Citibank repository, a default branch will be created. What is the branch, guys? A default branch is main branch. Whenever you create a repository, so it will create a branch called as a main branch, and the branch should be development branch and QA branch and prod branch. Okay. So why these branches? So when you create a branch, something like you can download this from your remote repository to local repository, and you are creating a branch called as a feature. So you are working on the feature, right? That feature is feature 123, something like what is the feature? The feature, for example, WhatsApp, chat, contacts are there. Okay, so contacts are there. A feature is something like you are trying to develop the feature code like as a status. Okay, status is the feature. So what is the feature? So you are trying to develop the code for the status. So this code, so the main code, whatever the main, right, in the code, in this repository, a branch contains the code. This code is deployed under the production. So where this code is deployed under the production environment, right? So your production environment is working fine, and whatever the code is there in the production branch, right, that code is in the main branch. So we cannot disturb this main branch. So we can create another branch called as a feature branch, and you can develop that code. Okay, so you can develop that code, and whatever the you developed, right, you can create a merge request from feature branch to dev branch. Once you create merged, right? So once this merged from dev to, you can merge from dev to, you can merge it to main. So from main to, you can merge it to QA. From main to, you can merge it to prod. That's the reason main branch is the default branch. The code, whatever the code there in the production branch, that code is in the main branch. So we cannot disturb this main branch. That's the reason we can create a branches, and we can merge the branch, merge the code from feature or something like a bug feature, whatever that, from dev to main. So once the developer develop that code, right, and test it in the development environment, it is looks good, then push it to the main. From main to QA environment will be trigger and verify the QA environment. Then, so once the QA sign off done, then we'll push it to the prod environment. Guys, now you understood the branching strategies?
So one question here. So I have my
Yeah.
system.
Mm.
In my system, I'm developing a feature like some login feature I'm developing. Okay. So
Yes.
I
Okay.
will just take this code and I will push it to the dev environment, dev branch, correct?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Right?
Not
Yes.
push. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Yes. Push it to the
Right?
development branch.
Yes.
So
And
yeah.
from development branch, my lead or someone, the person will merge
Approve
it to
that. Yes.
main.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
merging
Yes.
will happen
Here
there.
your lead will be. Yeah. Yeah. Here your lead will be approve the code. Then only you can push the code, because of whatever the code you write, right? Is it working fine or not? Something like, or else here also something like when you push the code to your dev branch, yeah. So your lead will be approve this code to the main branch.
Okay, okay. So, like now, if there are 2 to 3 developers working on the city bank, so
Yes,
every
yes.
developer will have its
Hmm.
own branch there.
Yeah, you can create. Yes, here you see 7 branches are there. Okay. So for example, you are creating a future 123, or someone created another branches. Okay. Yeah, every developer can create our own branch and
No, but
download that
I
code.
just
Download.
want to understand how it happens in the real time.
Yeah, I will show you. I will show you. I will show you how to create the branch, how to download the branch, how to clone the branch, and how to work the branch,
No,
and how
no,
to push the branch.
how that is there, sir. But
Yeah, I
my
will show you.
question is in real
Hmm.
time. every
Mm.
user, every developer who is working on the project will
Mm,
have its
mm,
own
mm.
branch, correct?
Yes, yes, yes.
And then they are asked to push their code to the particular environment, QA or
Particular
whatever.
branch, particular branch. Branch is a environment. Branch is a environment. For example, you
Branch.
see, so what this is the DS Git 5. What are the environments is there? Environment development 1, environment production, environment UAT sandbox, right? Here you see the environments.
So branch is nothing but environment. So I as a user, now there are
Mm.
two developers.
Yes,
So
okay.
I will not have my own branch created. Like my name is Amrut. So my name will
Yeah, you
not.
can create from here. Once you logged into that, right? You can create a branch. You can create a new branch. So you see
You're
here
not
all
getting
branches.
me. My question is like my name. With respect to my name, there will not be any branch, right?
Your name.
With respect to my name, is there any
Mm.
branch? Like when I,
No, no.
uh,
The repository is related to. So you have a developer, two developers. That repository is related to two developers. So one is for Amrut, one is for Hari. Okay. So they created a account for you and Hari. You logged into
yes,
that account. I also logged into that account. But the
yes,
repository is Citibank.
yes.
Okay. So once you logged into the GitHub account and once you logged into the repository, move to the repository, you can create a branch here and Hari will create a branch here. So you can clone that branch from your remote repository to local repository
No, but
and
you said,
Hari will download the,
no, I'm sorry. Sorry. You
yeah,
said branch
yeah,
is
yeah.
nothing but environment. So I will create my own environment.
If you want, you can create it. So that environment will be created by the team, right? For example, who created that repository? They will created the branches. They will created that environment branches. Okay, you can create your branch and clone that branch and get the code to your local repository. Then you can work on that repository and you can push the code to your remote branch. Here, for example, your branch is future 123. Then what you can do, you can push the code from your local future branch to development branch. New pull request. So from compare to future 123 to, for example, development branch. Okay. Once you push the code, it will be in the development branch.
Sir,
Then you
you're
can.
not. One minute. I log in
Mm,
and I will have the master branch ka access. So they will
mm.
always ask me to create my own branch, correct?
Yes, 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 yes.
So when I push the code, I will
Mm.
push that code from my system. It will go and sit into my branch, correct?
Yes, yes, yes,
And
yes,
from
yes.
my
In your
branch,
local also, yeah, in your local also, you downloaded the code, right, with your branch. In your local also, future 123 is there. You can push the code from your local future 123 to remote future 123. Okay. So your code will be in the future 123, remote 123. So then you can push to wherever you want. You want to push it to the main branch or you want to push it to the development branch. You want to push it to the QA branch. Usually how they will do, so they will push it to the development branch, from development to main to QA prod. Our main branch code will be synced to the production branch. So that is the reason we are not disturbing into the main branch code. So I will show you while doing the practical, Amrut. Then you will understand. Okay. Okay. So you are getting so many confusions. So when I start that right, everything you will understand. Yeah,
okay.
Namita or something like, who is that? Yeah, Namita, you said like local repository is our VS Code or Eclipse. Yes. So we can use Git Bash also and VS Code also, Eclipse also. Okay. Git is a local repository. Yes, Git is a local repository. GitHub is a remote repository. Yes, you are correct. Applications like development branch, production branch, UAT, stage, hotfix, testing, etc. Okay. So whenever you create a repository, a default branch will create. That branch name is, what is that branch, Amrit? Yeah,
Me,
in older version they call it as a master branch. Older version they call it as a master branch. So what is a local repository? Developer mission contains a .git folder is nothing but local repository. So I will show you this. So what this is? Yeah. So which branch you created? Which repository we created? For example, what this is? This is your remote repository, right, Amrita? Amrit. So you are cloning. What is that? You are cloning your remote repository into local repository. So how you can clone? By using git clone command. By using git clone command. Yeah. You see? So it's a cloned. You are appear to have a cloned an empty repository. CD. What is that? Citibank. Now you see Git City Bank. This is the local repository. What is the branch? The branch is main branch. So what it contains? It doesn't have any code. ls-la. What it contains? .git. What it is? It is a .git. A .git contains all the Git configuration files. Git configuration files. Now you understood? What is your local repository? Now Citibank is this is your local repository and this is your remote repository. I will show you now what is that remote repository. What is a remote repository? What is a remote repository? So what is remote repository? GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket. These all are the GitHub is a remote repository. A GitHub contains code
so you mean
connected
to say that
to.
one minute, sir. So I write a
Mm,
code, and
mm,
when I connect my, there will be a folder created .git, correct, in my system.
yes, yes,
That
yes,
is
yes,
nothing but
yes,
the local repository.
yes. For example, you joined a company, so a repository already created. Citibank repository is already created. You are working on that Citibank repository. How you can download from your remote repository to local repository? So you can download the remote repository into your local. Then this repository is a then this repository is our local repository. So whatever the code is there in the remote repository, the same code will be the same code will be there in the local repository. You can do something like I will show you. Touchhurry.txt. For example, this is the code you wrote. So you want to push that code from your local repository to remote repository. How you can push it? Git add dot git commit -m test git push. Yeah, you see now. So in your local hurry.txt is there. Now you pushed this hurry.txt to your remote repository. Is it pushed or not? Let's see. Yeah, now you see. So hurry.txt just now, this is the commit ID. Who committed? Hurry sir. What is the commit message? Text. So what is the branch? The branch is main branch. Understood?
Okay. Once.
So I will show you. I will show you. I will show you clearly. Just for your understand, I did this one. Okay. So how to set up this GitHub environment? How to sign up this GitHub environment? And how to set up this local environment? Local environment. How to create a repository? How to clone the repository? How to push the repository? We'll show you tomorrow, guys. How to install the Git and Git Bash on your local machine. Okay. Register and login GitHub account, create a empty repository, generate a token, how to push the code, how to pull the code. We'll show you.